and welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is Gabe Hernandez, and today we have a review of Army of Darkness Forever, number 5 by Dynamite Comics. In this issue, future Ash returns to where it all started, present Ash builds a website, and Sheila gets shocking news in the past. So that's a whole lot going on, and hopefully we're going to straighten it all out for you. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated. And make sure to stay to the end for our final tally and score. So let's get into the credits before we get started with the story. The Army of Darkness Forever number 5 is written by Tony Fleeks, art by Justin Greenwood, colors by Brad Simpson, letters by Troy Pateri. Cover art for cover A is drawn by Francesco Mattina. And let's recap where we started before we get into the meat of this issue. In the future, Ash was given the instructions from the hologram wise man to gather all the remaining pages of the Necronomicon to bring the book back together, and that would give him the magic he needed to return back to his own time, which is 1993. Uh, in the course of fighting droidites, which are basically cybernetic versions of deadites, he finds out that the holographic wise man's cyber robot buddies can give him weapons and upgrades, which kind of gives us a bunch of funny games in the future, sci-fi style, courtesy of Mr. Ash Williams. In the present, our 1993 version of Ash, sort of infected or possessed by evil Ash, figured out that he has a way of spreading evil, or a pathway to spreading evil, and he solicits the help of Ted, who is the S-Mart store manager, to show him this new thing, this newfangled thing called the internet. And somehow that puts him on a path to using technology for whatever evil purposes Evil Ash has in mind. And in the very distant past, Sheila is trying to get help from the wise man to figure out where is the Great One and what do we do now that all these Deadites are attacking, and perhaps the darkness is rising again. The wise man gets ambushed, and Sheila has to run for her life as Deadites start to rise and cut down soldiers that might be able to help her as she makes her way back to Lord Arthur's keep. So that's what happened in the previous issue. Where are we with the current issue? Still split into 3 timelines, not quite coming together, but we'll talk about that in a minute. In the future, Ash believes what he is attacking the last droidite, which is in the form of this giant cyber post-apocalyptic tank, and with the help of some well-placed explosives, ray guns, and robots that are on his side, he blows up the tank, gets the last page, but oh wait, oh no, of course not. The holographic wise man says, no, that's not the last page, that is close to the last page. The real last page is, of course, the very last place that Ash wants to be in any timeline, which is in the cabin where it all started in the woods. So, despite Ash's best intentions, he doesn't want to go down there. He goes to the cabin and finds out that the woods around the cabin are destroyed. The cabin itself is destroyed, but the trapdoor that goes into the basement, where all the worst things happen to him, is still there. And he sends the droids down and saying, you go get whatever's down there. You go get the last page. I'll wait up here. Of course, that doesn't work out when tentacles suddenly lash out and drag him down into the basement. And what's waiting for him? More droidites that are sort of a mix of robot and deadite. And of course, the very last thing he expected to see, his hand. The hand that he chopped off way back when is still around and kicking and waiting in the basement for him, which leads to a violent confrontation that doesn't quite get settled, but it certainly kicks off in typical Army of Darkness style. In the present, present Ash, which is 1993 present, is still tapping away at his computer, building out a website. His girlfriend comes in, says, hey, you want to get a little something, something. That doesn't wind up good for her because he's interrupting his work through the possession of evil Ash. And it turns out that before the issue is done, both his girlfriend and Ted, the store manager who helped him get on the internet, are both dead. But whatever internet type work he was doing is complete. Presumably it's a website, but we'll find out maybe in the next issue. And in the distant past, Sheila's still running for her life. She figures that the only place to go is to find Lord Arthur. She fights her way through deadites and screaming running people and soldiers fighting for their lives to eventually get to Lord Arthur, who is, surprise, also possessed by the Necronomicon. So we have trouble on all 3 fronts in all 3 timelines. And it's sure that's a great way to end the issue. for folks that are into Ash, the Evil Dead, and the Army of Darkness. Interesting fact or interesting story about why this particular issue is coming out the way it is and why it seems to play directly off the films is, if you weren't aware, this is a 30th anniversary sort of homage story arc that keys off the original release of the Army of Darkness way back when in 1993, I believe it was. So this is a 30th anniversary story. That's why it's so closely tied to the Army of Darkness films. So many of the things that happened in this story, at least in the very beginning, tied directly to how the ending of that film way back when. Okay, so what do we think about the Army of Darkness Forever #5? The future Ash story is kind of cool. You get Ash in a sort of futuristic, post-apocalyptic cyberpunk type setting where he has to do all kinds of cute, cool tricks. His quips are in full effect. His insults are scathing, and the personality is just all there. So the future part of the 3-part timeline story is Aces. It's a nice touch to see the cabin and where the cabin is in the future, and the cameo appearance or the return appearance of his hand is definitely a nice touch. What didn't we like about Army of Darkness #5? Well, the kind of the split nature of the story is where it gets a little hazy, a little fuzzy, and honestly frustrating, because we're at 5 issues now in this series, and it's still not quite clear where the 3 timelines connect or have anything to do with each other. Plus, the timelines sort of contradict each other. How can Ash have slept all the way through to 2073 when he's also in 1993? And what is Evil Ash doing in 1993 when we never saw how he got there? And how are the 2 timelines happening concurrently, but not together and not at all connected to each other? And why are we following Sheila when Ash is in the present and the future, but not in the past? And you have it feels like 3 separate stories going on at the same time that almost have nothing to do with each other than the Army of Darkness as a central character or theme, or just the events of that film have touched on each one of the timelines. They seem very disconnected, very disjointed, and they appear to have nothing to do with each other. Now, Tony Fleeks may eventually bring that all back together and tie it together in some big fashion. Who knows? But after 5 issues, it just seems like they're just 3 stories that are crammed together in the same comic book that don't really relate to each other, don't seem to be impacting each other, almost except for some of the consistent characters like Ash being in the present and the future. They don't seem to have anything to do with each other at all. And it's like, well, okay, so it's frustrating, it's confusing, it's contradictory, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So if people want Army of Darkness, I get why you would want this comic, but at the same time, if you want this just to read a good story that appears to make sense, you're going to struggle a little bit, and I don't blame you. So let's talk about the art real quick. From who do we have here? Justin Greenwood, and colors by Brad Simpson. It's good. Their lines are very loose, but you get the general gist of it. Ash doesn't look like Ash. He just looks like generic comic book character with slightly caricaturish anatomy, and the action is a little bit over the top comic strippy in the sense of just a little bit of slapstick but a little bit of horror at the same time. That's not to say it's bad, it's just that's what it is. So it's good, not great. And I think just it sort of depends on your point of view, from a taste and a preference point of view. It's not necessarily bad, it's just what it is, but it's good, it's okay. All right, so final thoughts. What do we think about Army of Darkness #5? uh, there are interesting moments. Sheila finding Lord Arthur has been possessed by the Necronomicon, that's interesting. The future battle, that's cool and interesting. The return to the cabin, that's cool and interesting. But the plot is just not making it. The 3 timelines that don't work together, they don't complement each other. They appear to be contradicting each other in some places, and it's not moving together in a way that makes sense. So you take some good with the bad, and that's what you get. Therefore, we're going to give Army of Darkness Forever #5 a 6.5 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this review. Before you leave, please like, share, comment, subscribe to Comical Opinions for more comic reviews and analysis every week. And you have a great day.